You're with the Deep Dive, and today, well, we're diving right into a mystery that's genuinely chilling. The Dyatlov Pass incident. It's been baffling people for, what, over 60 years now?
It really has, and the big question hanging over it all is, are we actually any closer to figuring out what happened to those 9 hikers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It resists easy answers, doesn't it?
Completely. It's one of those cases full of just bizarre details that don't seem to line up with any single explanation. More than just a tragedy, it's like a puzzle missing half its pieces.
Right. So let's set the scene a bit. It's February 1959. We're in the Ural Mountains in Russia. Pretty remote, very harsh.
Definitely unforgiving territory.
And you've got this group, 9 hikers, all pretty experienced skiers, led by Igor Dyatlov. They're on a serious trek.
Yeah, they had a specific goal, Mount O'Corton, and they had a return date, February 12th. That was the plan.
And crucially, these weren't, weekend warriors. These were seasoned people.
Absolutely. They knew mountains, they knew winter conditions. Their route was tough, sure, but it should have been doable for them.
Which just makes what happened next even more,
Yeah.
well, confusing.
That's the first really strange thing. Their skill level makes you question everything.
So, February 12th rolls around. Silence. No sign of him.
Nothing. And, after a few days, obviously alarm bells start ringing.
An urgent rescue mission gets scrambled. And what they find, it's deeply disturbing.
Yeah, the campsite scene, it's the start of the real mystery.
They find the tent, but it's like slashed open from the inside.
From the inside, not ripped by weather or an animal trying to get in. Someone inside cut their way out.
And their stuff, equipment, clothes, boots, it's scattered around. It looks like they fled.
Fled into that brutal cold. We're talking temperatures well below freezing. And some of them, they didn't even have shoes on. Barefoot in the snow.
Just imagine the panic. What on earth could make experienced hikers abandon their shelter, their gear, their boots, and run out into that kind of night?
It paints a picture of just sheer sudden terror. Not a planned retreat, not getting lost. It's flight, pure flight.
That's the immediate hook, isn't it? What
Yeah.
triggers that kind of reaction?
Exactly. And then they started finding the bodies.
And this is where it gets even stranger, almost unbelievable. The injuries.
Oh, the injuries are central to the whole enigma.
Some of them had suffered these massive internal injuries, like broken ribs, fractured skulls, the kind of trauma doctors said was consistent with a high-speed car crash. A huge force.
A massive crushing force. But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
There were no corresponding external wounds. No significant bruises, no cuts on the skin where you'd expect them from that kind of impact.
How is that possible? How do you get crushed from the inside out, essentially, without any outward sign?
It defies easy explanation medically and physically. It immediately makes you question things like falls or animal attacks or even a typical avalanche. Those usually leave external signs.
It really challenges our understanding of what can happen out there.
It forces you to think outside the box, way outside.
And if that wasn't enough, there were other, well, gruesome details.
Details that push it almost into horror territory.
Some of the bodies were found missing their eyes.
Right. And one victim, Ludmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue.
Just gone. Again, with seemingly little explanation for how or why, and apparently not much blood around either.
The lack of blood, the specific nature of those, mutilations, it just adds layers of deep strangeness, makes it feel almost ritualistic to some, or just profoundly baffling.
So what did the initial investigation say? There must have been some official conclusion back then.
Well, the official cause of death was eventually attributed to a compelling natural force, which is vague.
Vague is putting it mildly.
The most common interpretation, and the one sometimes mentioned officially, was an avalanche.
An avalanche. Okay. Force of nature makes some sense in the mountains.
It does on the surface, but it always felt, a bit off, didn't it?
Yeah, it didn't quite seem to fit all the facts. Like, why cut the tent from the inside? Why flee downhill towards danger, not sideways? And those internal injuries.
Exactly. Experienced hikers caught in an avalanche might react differently. And a typical snowslide. Would it cause those specific massive internal injuries without external marks? It raises doubts.
So that initial explanation left a lot of room for other theories to bubble up over the years.
Definitely. And they range from the plausible to the pretty far out there.
Okay, so let's jump forward. 2020. Russian authorities actually reopened the case.
Yes, a renewed effort to try and put the matter to rest, perhaps using more modern forensic techniques and analysis.
And what did they land on?
Interestingly, they also concluded it was an avalanche. but with a slight twist.
Okay, how so?
They proposed a specific type, a delayed slab avalanche. The idea is that the hikers cut into the snow slope to pitch their tent, destabilizing it. Later, maybe due to wind or changing temperatures, a slab of snow slid down onto the tent.
Ah, so not a massive mountain-clearing avalanche, but something smaller, more localized, right above them.
Precisely. Enough to potentially damage the tent, cause panic, maybe injure someone slightly initially, and trigger that chaotic flight downhill.
That addresses the panic and the tent damage a bit better, maybe.
It tries to. It offers a mechanism for that sudden fear. But it still struggles with those core, bizarre injuries.
Yeah, can a relatively small slab avalanche really generate that kind of internal crushing force like a car crash without leaving external signs? It still feels like a stretch.
It does. It's a more refined theory, but for many, it still doesn't fully explain the most perplexing physical evidence.
Which inevitably brings us to other factors, things happening in that area at that time, the military angle.
Right. This has always been a big part of the speculation. It's known that the Soviet military was active in the Urals around that period.
And specifically?
There's evidence suggesting tests were being conducted, including potentially parachute mines.
Parachute mines. Explain those. They're not like typical landmines, are they?
No, they're designed often to detonate midair or on impact after being dropped. And crucially, some types can produce powerful concussive blasts, shock waves.
Shock waves. Like a blast of pressure.
Exactly. And a powerful shockwave can, theoretically, cause severe internal injuries, ruptured organs, internal bleeding, without necessarily causing significant external wounds.
Okay, now that sounds eerily similar to the injuries found on some of the hikers.
It does. The physics are complex, but the potential for concussive force to cause such injuries is there. It aligns disturbingly well with the autopsy findings.
So this opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it?
It really does. Did the hikers stumble onto a secret test zone? Were they accidentally caught in the blast radius of a weapon being tested?
Or, more sinisterly, were they witnesses to something they shouldn't have seen, leading to some kind of intervention or cover-up?
All those possibilities flood in. If military activity, even accidental, was involved in the deaths of 9 civilians, well, you can imagine the incentive for secrecy in the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War.
Absolutely. A cover-up would almost be expected in that context. It casts a very different light on the whole thing, not just a tragic accident, but potentially something involving state secrecy.
And it might explain inconsistencies in the investigation, lost files, things like that, which have also been reported over the years.
So we have the refined avalanche theory, which has its issues, and then this potential military connection, which seems to fit the injuries better, but relies on speculation about secret activities.
It's a real fork in the road for explanations.
But then there's the other stuff.
Yeah.
The really unsettling, harder to pin down theories.
You mean the more paranormal or unexplained elements?
Yeah, like the local Mansi legends, the indigenous people of the area. They apparently considered that mountain, Kolatsyakl, which is near where the incident happened.
Dead mountain, in their language.
Dead mountain, right. There are stories about it being cursed or home to powerful spirits. Things you shouldn't disturb.
These are deeply held cultural beliefs, and while you can't use them as hard evidence, they certainly add to the eerie atmosphere surrounding the pass. It's part of the location's mystique.
And then there were those reports, strange lights in the sky.
Yes, there were accounts, both from other hikers in the wider region and even reportedly from meteorological stations or military personnel around that time, mentioning strange orange spheres or lights in the sky.
Around the time of the incident.
Around the time, yes. Which, predictably, has fueled theories about, well, UFOs or extraterrestrial involvement.
Okay, so now we're really pushing the boundaries. Cursed mountains, UFOs.
Look, these theories persist because the core facts, the tent, the injuries, the missing body parts are so bizarre that they seem to invite extraordinary explanations when conventional ones fall short.
It's like the human mind trying to fill an impossible gap.
Exactly. When faced with the truly inexplicable, people naturally gravitate towards explanations that match the scale of the mystery, even if they lack concrete proof. They reflect the profound unease the case generates.
So putting it all together, could it be, maybe, not just one single thing?
You mean like a combination of factors, a synthesis theory?
Yeah, like a perfect storm scenario. Maybe it started with something natural. Perhaps that slab avalanche the Russians suggested, causing initial panic and forcing them out.
Okay, so that gets them out of the tent in a panic.
Right, and then, maybe disoriented, fleeing in the dark, they stumble into something else. Perhaps the periphery of one of those military tests. A shockwave hit some of them.
causing those specific internal injuries in some, while others maybe succumb to the cold later.
And maybe the strange lights were related to the military tests. Or maybe just a coincidence that added to the confusion and fear. And perhaps the missing eyes and tongue. Maybe scavenging animals later, or something else we don't understand.
It's an attempt to weave the different threads together. A natural event triggers the crisis, human error and panic worsen it, and then maybe this external factor, military or otherwise, delivers the fatal blow to some, followed by, potentially, a degree of official obfuscation or cover-up.
It feels complicated, but maybe more plausible than any single explanation on its own.
It acknowledges the complexity. It suggests that maybe there isn't one neat answer, but a tragic sequence of events. Some natural, some perhaps man-made, some just bad luck, all converging on that mountainside.
So where does that leave us? We've gone through the avalanche theories, the military angle, the more out there stuff, the synthesis idea.
We have to come back to that first question.
Is the Dyatlov Pass mystery solved?
Yeah. After all this time, all the investigations, do we know what happened?
I think the honest answer is no, not definitively. Not in a way that satisfies everyone and accounts for all the bizarre evidence.
Even with the 2020 reinvestigation pointing back to an avalanche.
Even then. As we discussed, that explanation, while plausible in parts, still leaves major questions, especially about the injuries. The military connection remains speculative but compelling. The other elements are less provable but refuse to go away.
So the mystery endures.
It absolutely does, and maybe that's part of its enduring power. It sits there as this stark reminder that sometimes events happen that defy easy explanation, that push the limits of our understanding. It's unsettling, isn't it, that something so tragic could remain so opaque?
Deeply unsettling. It forces us to confront the unknown, the possibility that not every puzzle has a solution we can currently grasp.
A chilling thought to end on. It really makes you think about the forces, natural or otherwise, that might be at play, unseen, around us.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. Given everything, the conflicting evidence, the strange injuries, the setting, the lingering questions, what theory or combination of theories resonates most with you? What part of this whole story just doesn't sit right in your mind?
What explanation feels like it might hold the key, even if we can't prove it?
It's a mystery that invites you to keep questioning, keep exploring the possibilities in that haunting, frozen landscape. The Dyatlov Pass story isn't finished yet.